Tonight on the Fanatic Forum, the Royal Rumble is over. We're on the road to Wrestlemania. But that road is rough and rocky right now. There's a lot to talk about, but never fear, your Fanatic and Junior Fanatic are here, and we're going to talk about a lot of that and so much more right after this. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm your Fanatic and host, George Buehler. Hope everybody had a good week so far here. We have got a lot of wrestling to talk about, and we're certainly going to be doing that this week. But of course, last weekend we had the pleasure of having the Multiverse fundraiser in honor for comic books for kids. Of course, you guys are on the Fanatic Forum here, know comic books for kids very well. I play their ads every week. But anyway, we were raising money, and I believe we met our goal or exceeded our goal. But either way, it was a wonderful weekend. I got to talk to Marvel legend Bob Hull, who's a tremendous artist. We had a great time, and of course, over the weekend, got to fill in doing some other, hosting for different panels. I was on Ice Cream Queens Sunday night. Saturday, I was on Smokes Roadbeers watch along. So basically, last weekend, I was responsible for 5 hours of podcasting between Friday and Sunday. So I got to take a little rest. But anywho, helping me out this week here, of course, I couldn't talk about wrestling stuff without bringing on my brother from another mother, my greatest tag team partner of all time here, my Junior Fanatic, Seth Moore, co-host of the Smokes and Roadbeers podcast.
Hello, hello. Thank you again for having me. I am excited to be part of the Fanatic Forum again tonight. Excited to talk all the wrestling gossip because, there's a
lot of tea.
Oh yeah,
so much. It's rich and thick and dripping and sugary and everything. Yes. So, but how are you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Like you said, we got to hang out Saturday and do the Royal Rumble thing, and you joined us for that. Thank you again. We appreciated you jumping in there and hanging out with us. It was a blast to watch along, and that was so much fun. And then we had our show last night, and so I did my fair bit of streaming. But no, you're turned into a regular streamer. You're making it like a full-time job and everything.
Well, I mean, last weekend was a special, because it was the fundraiser. So I'm basically being a good, network affiliate and helping out. And then, we're doing my share. And then, I needed to fill in for a couple of people, but hosts fell ill. They lost their voice. I'm like, well, if, you can't talk, then you can't talk. So, I go over there, and then my friend Melinda Beck, who is the creator of the Moss Hollow podcast. Of course, she's been on the show before. Mm-hmm. You guys haven't checked her out. If you're looking for a good spooky Appalachian, style, horror podcast, but it's like an audiobook. It has a,
it's like a radio play kind of deal. Like that. Yeah, I've listened to a couple episodes already. That's some cool stuff.
Yeah, it's legit. Yeah, so Melinda was on the Ice Cream Queens this past Sunday, talking about the podcast. Of course, the first season's about to end, and we were pressuring her for a second season, so we'll see about that. But yeah, so anyway, I'm just doing that and then helping you guys out, tagging in on the Royal Rumble thing. So yeah, I'm here to help out my friends.
Yeah, you were originally just supposed to come in with a hot tag at the end that was just supposed to be you singing when Mr. Punk won the Rumble, but you came in a little early, and that was a welcome addition, and we
Yeah,
appreciate
well, you got Bill had a guest that apparently tapped out a little early.
Yeah, the Rumble was not entertaining for Mr. Jeremy, so he had to fall asleep in the chair, and he had to swap out with his son Austin, and then yeah, yeah, Jeremy, I
Uh,
believe slept mostly through the rest of the pay-per-view. Either the Rumble was not entertaining or we were not entertaining with our commentary, but yeah.
it
Uh,
had to be the Rumble because we were damn entertaining. I'll tell you
I
that.
I
Yeah,
like I thought we were awesome. Yeah.
we were great. Yeah. Oh, well, all kidding aside here, before we get into the comics and the wrestling talk, gotta acknowledge a couple of big losses today here in the world of film and in the world of music as well. You guys may have heard earlier today the passing of Carl Weathers, storied actor. You know him from the Rocky films, Predator, Action Jackson, of course, more recently on The Mandalorian.
Mhm.
Passed away at the age of 76
Happy
today.
Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
just so much stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a great actor. When from what I've heard, just a gentleman backstage, a good guy. So, uh,
Hysterical in Arrested Development when he played himself. He was
oh,
Job's, or he was the
yeah,
acting coach. Every time he'd
of
be like,
course,
you keep that, you take that, you make a great stew with it.
oh god, yeah, and then of course, this is an '80s picture, of him, but man, I mean, just that dude was just, just chiseled good looks there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he kept that good looks too. So good genetics on his part there. But
Yeah, absolutely.
apparently, he passed away in his sleep. No other reasons was given. But he, passed away peacefully in his home. But what a loss, man! What a great career, great actor.
Right.
And the one I found out literally about 30 minutes before we hit the air here. This one hits a little harder for both of us too here, being fans. Legendary MC5 co-founder Wayne Kramer passed away at the age of 75 today. Uh,
Yeah.
no
Oh,
cause of death was given on this one just yet. Just a brief, uh, brief posthumous, obituary. Thank you. I couldn't. My brain wasn't working. Brief obituary online.
right.
Yes, no cause of death was given, but yeah, the MC5, just a tremendous rock band, very instrumental to punk rock. For just their energy, their social involvement. They're just kind of DIY sort of mentality for
Yeah,
the band.
yeah. They came out of that dirty Detroit sound with like the Stooges and
Hmm.
what the like Lou Reed would kind of try and imitate kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, man, Kick Out the Jam. George and I were kind of talking about it earlier. Kick Out the Jams was one of my favorite albums of theirs, the live album. And
Hmm.
I still think that's one of the greatest records ever made. Just one of the greatest things to grace magnetic recording tape, as I believe
Yeah.
Henry Rollins once said. But
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's crazy too. Like their first album was a live record, but it
yeah,
was just kind of like that was the they obviously did two other albums that were officially released as studio albums. Of course, there's tons of other bootlegs and live records that's out there. Obviously, they got tons of stuff streaming
oh yeah,
online. If you don't know who the MC5 are, please look them up. They're awesome, especially if you're kind of like your you know meat potatoes rock and roll, with a definitely with a punk
right,
edge to it. Before there was punk rock, because these guys debuted in 1968.
yeah,
There was no punk rock thing. But yeah, they were heavily socially involved. Basically, their manager was a member of the White Panther Party, which was kind of like the Black Panther Party, but they had white people in it. Um, but they were far more militant than the Black Panthers. Sometimes almost getting criminal. So
oh wow,
yeah,
wow,
there's
that's actually saying a lot too.
yeah, there,
You
there were
know,
there's some great documentaries out there on the MC5 and their whole history and stuff like that. And some of the crap they got caught up in because of basically who was representing them. Like they were just there to, they had some social messages in their music and they were just there to play, but they also weren't there to get arrested for
right?
being
Yeah,
being considered terrorists or anything like that.
yeah.
So
See,
yeah,
man,
but
that's the stuff with like music history that always gets me too, because that I mean, to me, that is part of history is like bands being involved with that kind of stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I
They had
always think that stuff's cool.
Yeah, they have stuff to say. So yeah, so rest in peace to Carl Weathers and to Wayne Kramer. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, so everybody knows who Carl Weathers is. But yeah, if you're not familiar with the MC5 or any of Wayne Kramer's solo stuff, because he was very prolific throughout the '90s and the early 2000s, and
Yeah.
then try to reform the MC5 with basically different celebrity musicians coming in, because at the time he was doing the revival for the MC5, the only living member was himself, and then drummer Dennis Thompson. Because let's see, the bass player, he passed away in 2012 before they did the reunion, and then Rob Tyner and Fred Smith both passed away in the '90s. So
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so now there's only Dennis Thompson's the only surviving member now, the drummer. So
Phew.
yeah, but he's awesome, man. That guy's got like he's got like a machine gun esque kind of just firing on his drum kit, man. That guy's just
Yeah.
yeah. I did not want to be his drum skins ever. He beat them like they stole his money.
Oh man, yeah, it's weird. Like if you ever get a chance, like if you're curious to look pictures up, like a concert drummer, like a rock concert, like when they put new heads on them every night, just about like sometimes even change them out during the shows.
Yeah.
But like but you like I know you've seen them. Like I'm just talking about like if people haven't checked it out, like but
Mm.
like if you get a chance, like the ones after the show that stay intact, just how beat up they get, like a before and after kind of thing. It's crazy how
Yeah.
hard some of these people hit those drums.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, John Bonham was like a heavy drummer the same way too. So
Yeah.
he managed. Matter of fact, it was because of him that like they would do like heavier skins on some of the other drum
Yeah.
heads and whatnot. So he kind of helped work with the. So I can't remember what company that he was working with, but yeah, he he was responsible for building some better, stronger drum heads.
Yeah. Which
That
sucks
was
because you
definitely a
couldn't
great.
bust through a drum head, a drum head mid-song, because then what are you gonna do,
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I got a couple of comics here to share with you before we get into our
Yes.
wrestling talk, because we got a lot of wrestling talk. And
Yes,
of
we do.
course, you can't do a Fanatic Forum without talking comics. So, we only got one Marvel selection this week here, but this is Avengers Twilight issue number 2 here. Great Alex Ross cover here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a basically kind of sandbox series here. This is not connected with regular Marvel continuity here, but Chip Zdarsky, Daniel Acuna is the creative team on this one. This has basically been compared for DC fans to Kingdom Come or Old Man Rogers sort of thing. Because basically what it is, that we're in the future. Steve Rogers has retired. Most of the Avengers are either dead or retired because of the events of this infamous Hero Day, which was kind of a lot of villains teamed up together against a bunch of heroes, and the villains
Mhm.
won.
Oh.
Uh, uh, in the future, there is a new generation of Avengers led by the son of Tony Stark and Janet Van Dyne, but he's kind of an a-hole. And there's a corporate guy by the name of Jarvis, who's not Edwin Jarvis, but is a different Jarvis, that
Okay.
is basically kind of leading young Tony or young James Stark, that's his name, by the short hairs, basically kind of leading him along like a puppy, though he's not aware of this. And issue 2, we find out a lot of revelations of what's going on behind the scenes of this new regime that's controlling the United States, controlling all information and media, kind of seeming a bit like a dictatorship, even though they're not officially supposed to be a dictatorship. So, but yeah, our
Okay.
Captain America basically gets back in shape, straps on the shield one more time, gets a new dose of super soldier serum, and now he's back out in the field again. But it's definitely a much different battle than it used to be in his early days. And so he's got a group of young people that are calling themselves the Defenders, led by an elderly Luke Cage, who's still around, but basically because of his steel skin, the older he gets, the harder it is for him to move. So he's basically bound to a wheelchair. Uh,
Oh.
yeah, but he's still kicking. But yeah, he sees all the stuff that's going on, and so these defenders are kind of working, under the radar in the shadows, sort of very guerrilla tactics against this new breed of Avengers who just suck. but yeah, it's very much like Kingdom Come, where it's like, the new heroes suck and the old heroes got to come in and spank their
and take
bottoms.
care of things. Yeah.
Yeah, but they haven't blown up Kansas City like they did in Kingdom Come, but we're getting close.
Right. Right. Oh man,
Yeah,
that's big shoes to step up to too. Because Kingdom Come was a great story.
yeah, it is. But
Yeah.
it's kind of coincidental that Alex Ross does the covers for this series, and
Oh
Alex
yeah,
Ross.
yeah,
Yep. So connection.
yeah.
Got a couple of cool DC books here. Batman Off-World issue 3 here. Of course, this is Jason Aaron's miniseries that he's doing, his first ever Batman run here.
Batman riding a robotic wolf. That's
It's
awesome.
kind of basically it's an alien wolf here. Let me bring this up here.
Okay.
This is kind of like an alien species here, but basically Batman tamed him and decided, like, he convinced him that don't hunt me, let's go hunt other things. And so Wolf says, "Cool," and
Okay.
Wolf
Okay.
away there. But anyway, the whole plot of this one here, of course, like I said, this is Jason Aaron's first ever on a DC book and on a Batman book, period. But Jason's doing a new run on some DC books. He's over on Action Comics as well, doing a miniseries or kind of a short run there. But anyway, Batman Off-World is early days of Batman. He fights a literal alien from space that kicks his butt because some gangster hired him when he was in town, I guess. I don't know how a gangster hires a space alien, but there you go. But he does to basically specifically to take out Batman. Well, Batman figures out where this guy comes from, the Slag Galaxy. And so Batman builds himself a spaceship, books a one-way trip to the Slag Galaxy, and is like, I'm going to learn how to fight and survive against these really tough, badass aliens so that I may too become more badass. So basically,
Okay.
this is literally a training expedition for a young Batman off to intergalactic realms where he's never been before. And he doesn't quite have a clear path home. So, but yeah, lots of fun there. Jason's, doing a good job writing on it. I've, 3 issues in, I'm still enjoying the series, so that's a good run there.
Okay.
My other one from DC, the finale to Titans Beast World. This is issue 6. Of course, this is officially the first big kind of all-encompassing DC crossover where the Titans are 100% in charge of the situation here. They are handling things. The members of the Justice League are still there. They're still available, but basically they have disbanded the Justice League. The Titans are now the premier superhero team in the DC universe. So when the big world crisis things are happening, you call on the Titans here. And Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all them, they play backup. They ask Dick Grayson, "What do you want to do? What should we do, Dick?" Sort of stuff like that.
Right.
So
Right.
that's how much they are in charge. It's a really cool kind of dynamic, especially if you're a Titans fan, to see like they're all grown up now. The old guard, while they are still in the fight, they have stepped aside and said, "Okay, y'all are this is you guys. You guys are handling this stuff now, whatever else." So
Right.
very well done here. Of course, Amanda Waller is very heavily involved in the events of this and is well, she's gone full heel. And if you didn't already hate Amanda Waller by the time you finish Beast World here, you will absolutely hate her. I can't curse enough on this show about her, but yeah, she does. Waller does some real, especially if you're a Beast Boy fan. Waller does some real dirty stuff that you're like, no, you don't touch Gar. But yeah, um, yeah. So, but
Yeah.
again, just she's such a great villain. But yeah, for a first ever event for the Titans being in charge now, well done. A lot of fun. It kept up. The ending was good. They kind of left you some tendrils for the next thing that's going to happen and whatever next problem coming up, and a further larger problem throughout the DC universe. Again, Amanda Waller.
Right.
But yeah, just good stuff. I had nothing but good things to say about that. And so, you being more of a DC fan than I'm being the more of the Marvel fan, I knew you'd appreciate that. So,
Oh yeah.
next up for my indie stuff here, issue 5 of Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. This has still been a great series here. Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, all right.
kind of in the same vein of Abraham Lincoln
Lincoln
Vampire Hunter.
Vampire Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, we're changing history a little bit here. So basically, Harriet Tubman, while still being involved with the Underground Railroad and freeing slaves and getting them to safe passage, she's also really adept at killing vampires, werewolves, monsters, and all that sort of stuff here. Apparently, in her youth, she like hit her head and it knocked her out. When she woke up, suddenly she's like John Wick with a set of blades. Like she's just ultra ninja badass. And
Right.
so she's got recruited some, various, cohorts and even, adopted a couple of kids that she considers her children. But she's got like this little band of people. And so she's currently freeing a family. And as they're going along, you find out there's kind of like this demon vampire. I don't know exactly what this dude is, but here's some big bad who's literally like rounded up all the monsters and like, look, she's a problem. Go after her. Let's do it now. And so she finds out in this issue that she's being hunted. And also you find out a little bit more about her backstory of why she's, the excellent monster hunter that she is here. But yeah,
No.
this is from Massive, which is a affiliate of Whatnot from their comic brand here. Also, it's a artist imprint of Kingwood Comics here because of the creative team of David Crownson, Cortland Ellis, and Sharonda J. Brown. But yeah, if you like your alternate history stuff, highly recommend. Been a lot of fun series.
There you go, yeah.
A couple of image books. We had two big whoppers this week here. First off, issue number 7 of World Tree, the techno thriller here. Basically, you've got the. I also realized the World Tree there kind of does this little like digitizing effect here on the screen. See
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, those covers are always cool, yeah.
That's cool. I didn't realize. That's neat. Well, it's all kind of slotted and everything like it's a computer screen, but yeah. Don't want to give too much away because, of course, like I said, there's a lot of weird techno stuff going on here. We have like a dark side of the internet that's now basically come forth, and is corrupting people, causing people to kill, do horrible things, whatever else. There's a whole conspiracy around it, and yeah, there's a group of hackers that have been caught up in this thing for 30 years. They thought they took it out. Apparently they haven't, and the guy that was the ringleader, maybe it seems he may have unleashed this thing on purpose. So there's lots of stuff going on in this book here. Not for kids. Lots of violence and nudity because there's specifically a character that I think she serves this dark internet thing, like specifically kind of their avatar on Earth, and she has this tendency to basically walk around stark naked, like she's heavily tattooed. But she walks around stark naked when she's in her murder rampages. So it's like, yeah, if they were doing like a TV show or a movie of this, like, whatever actress they hire, it's like, I hope you're comfortable with nudity. Because you're going to have to do a lot of it. But the good thing is, it's not a sexy thing, it's a terrifying murder thing. So it's like, here you go. You don't have to strip some dude. You just got to go kill a whole lot of people in very terrifying ways.
Right. Oh man, like what's the name of that anime with crap? There's like an anime that opens with like this like naked girl that just eviscerates like this hallway full of like tech noir soldier goon dudes.
Was it Ghost in the Shell?
No, it wasn't Ghost in the Shell. It was I forgot the name of it. It was some kind of avant-garde kind of name, but
oh, okay.
Yeah, it'll come to me 20 minutes after we go off the air, I'm sure. And but yeah.
I got one last book here to share. And of course, we were talking a lot about the Energon universe a couple of weeks ago here. Duke issue 2 is out.
Man.
Does not disappoint.
Man, yeah. So you did that episode on the Energon universe. So it's like I have 3 issues into Transformers, but I've got all of Void Rivals in so far. Or at least 6 issues of Void Rivals. I don't know if there's another one. I'll have to check.
No, we're at 6 right now.
Okay. But yeah, no, that whole thing is killer. And yeah, I've seen the Duke cameo too, where like he where his co-pilot ejected and Starscream was just being Starscream. And man, that Energon universe, I didn't know how they were going to handle the or how they were going to necessarily top the IDW run,
Yeah,
especially like that run through Unicron, because that was a killer run. But this is getting there quick, and
yeah.
yeah.
Especially
But
when you get
mm,
to issue 4 of Transformers, because 5 hasn't come out yet. But when you get to issue 4, there's a little bit of a mic. Actually, there's a double mic drop they do at the end of that issue, and you're like,
yeah,
so yeah. So it's an exciting time. But Duke issue 2, basically, if you've read the first issue, you know that basically, Duke is full on, like, what are these robots that are planes and what freaking me out here? And the U.S. government is trying to cover it up. They're trying to keep Duke quiet. So he's kind of playing a bit of a rogue operative, kind of like, he's a conspiracy theorist guy, but the stuff he's talking about is real. They managed to bring in good old Dr. Burkhart from the original issue of G.I. Joe as kind of like she's
yeah.
an expert on the stuff in the first issue, and sort of thing like that. But then, like, you know, we see General Hawk in the first issue because he has a conversation with Duke, kind of like, what are you doing, kid? I expect this out of your little brother. I don't expect this out of you. So, like, we make a Falcon reference, even though we don't name check Falcon. But
Right.
um, essentially, by the end of the first issue, another member, because like I said, right now in the Energon universe, the GI Joe team does not exist. So we have a potentially future member of the GI Joe team who has been tasked with hunting Duke. That man is named Stalker.
Oh,
But Stalker also brings a friend, which is another old school member of the GI Joe team, Rock and Roll.
I love rock and roll is one of my favorites, man. Just dude loved heavy metal, and he had a machine gun, a giant
Yeah.
Gatling gun. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
was
that
just
that
yeah.
that is the point. We also get another member of the Joe team popping in, basically as a buddy of Duke's, and that's Clutch. So they get
I
yeah.
Yeah, I did see the panel in there that was which is sadly, like, since Carl Weathers passed, the tribute panel in there with the Predator arm grab,
Oh yeah.
like, yeah, that was cool. There's a neat little panel in there. Check that out
Yeah. Yeah.
if you haven't. Yeah.
Yes, but the bomb drop on issue 2, of course, in the solicitations for Duke, for Duke and for Cobra Commander, we see kind of like a lineup of characters involved in the miniseries. So for Cobra Commander, we see Cobra Commander, we see Zorana, we see. Trying to think. I know Mercer's in there. I can't remember who the fourth person is. It's like I don't know if it's Destro or if it's a Cobra Soldier or something along those lines. But basically, it's
Mhm.
people we've seen in the series so far. Over on Duke, Duke's in there. Colonel Hawk. He's not general right now. He's just a colonel. Stalker's in there, but the fourth person is the Baroness. So, like, in first issue, don't see a Baroness. We do in issue 2. So
Mhm.
there's a little bit of like, why is she in the place that she's in, and what's going on with the Baroness here? So,
And you still remember my theory about what's going on there, don't you?
oh yeah,
That
yeah.
Zartan is disguised as the Baroness.
Well, I hope
That's
that
4D chess.
I that would be cool. I hope that there isn't some kind of like romantic involvement between Baroness and the Duke, and then Duke, has like a crying game kind of episode. It's like,
No, no, no. See,
oh,
Zartan's a master of disguise. He would go through what he needed to go through. If Duke wanted to take him out to a nice seafood dinner, and
well,
maybe, yeah,
I'm just
Zartan
saying
would
I'm just
go.
saying if things get physical, if basically
Yeah.
they start getting a little more intimate beyond kissing and whatever else, then there's gonna be a level of disappointment, because as much as a master of disguise as Zartan is, there's certain things you can't mask.
Well,
So, I mean, I'm trying to say this as censored as I possibly can here, but yeah, there's some things you just can't fake. He's not
yeah,
Mystique. Okay,
no, no, no,
he's not
no.
Mystique from the X Men.
Okay.
Mystique, yes, can totally do that from the X Men. Zartan is just the it's literally just a digital
Right.
max.
But Victorian era women of leisure or pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
however you want to say
Mm-hmm.
that, there were methods that they used, that they employed, that did not involve the awareness of that, you know? And I'm just saying,
Well,
we need to stop. We need to.
we're getting into Victorian era harlot sex techniques here on the Fanatic Forum, folks. That's a first. Thank you, sir.
Hey, you know, I'm not even on my. I'm sober. You know, it's like I'm not on my own show. So, and I
Yeah.
don't even know where that came from, but
Oh, God love it. Well, with that, we're going to take
oh,
a short break here to acknowledge
sorry,
our
man.
sponsor. No, you're good, brother. No, I love it. I love it. We're going to acknowledge our sponsor, Comic Books for Kids. Then we come back. We got a lot more wrong stuff to talk about here because we got
Yeah.
wrestling talk here. So we'll be right back.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
Wow, I'm still laughing about that. Oh, that's
Yeah,
good
I
stuff.
didn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I totally
Oh, you're
derailed
good,
that.
brother. Wait, real quick though, got a plug for Comic Books for Kids. Of course, last weekend for the Multiverse fundraiser, we were sponsoring them for basically, so all the proceeds went straight to Comic Books for Kids. So if you still want to donate, you can go to comicbooksforkids.org or cb4k.org and donate yourself there. They are an awesome grassroots organization that literally gets comic books, toys, Funko Pops, all kinds of cool stuff like that to kids in hospitals, just as a way to brighten their day, a way to distract them from basically the rough times they're in. I mean, because you're not in the hospital for a good reason, you know,
Right,
especially
right.
when you're a little kid. So it's a great organization. Mark Weiss, who's the CEO, what I love about him is like he has like a lot of contacts with the hospitals, but then like when it comes time to give the kids the stuff, the hospitals are the one giving the kids stuff. Not they, so the families, the kids, they don't know who Mark is. They don't know who Comic Books for
Yeah.
Kids, is. So it's like he's doing this the right way. So it's like,
Right, right.
yeah,
That's cool.
just a great guy, great organization. So yeah, so support them certainly if you can.
Yeah.
All right, we got wrestling to talk about here, sir.
Do we ever? All right.
Yes. So
Phew.
we were, of course, we had the Royal Rumble this past Saturday, and overall, I enjoyed the show. It wasn't a great, event. I think they could have maybe jazzed up a little bit more, seeing as they were really trying to overshadow the bad press they were getting.
Yeah.
Uh, but definitely, the women's Rumble I think was far better, far more entertaining than the men's.
100%, 100%, especially with who you had. Like, there were more surprises in the women's rumble.
Yep.
There were more memorable moments in the women's rumble. It was just
Hmm.
an all-out better match. Now, I did run out of what was it, 10 minutes over, I think,
Yes.
from what it normally
Yeah.
or from what it was supposed to. But you know,
Which
it was
that's an
worth it.
eternity in TV time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, oh gosh, somebody was mad back
So,
there.
so
Who
somebody probably had to leave the gorilla position and go outside and scream for a little bit. Um, sure, some
Yeah.
producer was, their hair turned white as the match was going on. So
Right, yeah, and you could really tell that affected it later on, especially in the men's, because they were
yeah.
just rapid fire.
Hmm.
Because oh man, yeah. Because I
Um,
even started timing the women's rumble as they came out, and they were dead on about 90 seconds each time.
yeah.
But yeah, the men's there was no way that was 90
No,
seconds.
yeah, there's a lot of dudes they were rushing through, and a lot of spots they were rushing through as well. Because of course, like in the women's rumble, we got like the return of Naomi. She'd been over in TNA for a while,
Yes.
basically their women's champion for a bit, but now she lost it to Jordana Grace, and then we got to see Jordana,
Yeah,
and she looked
dude.
phenomenal in the match. They gave her a great showing.
They did. Oh man, I popped huge when she showed up because I was not expecting it at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was great in there. I loved it with her and Naomi, just having their little hug in there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice? I believe still as of today that Naomi / Trinity is still listed on the WWE roster and the TNA roster. So
Interesting.
yeah, that is kind of interesting. But
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, a lot of moments there. Of course, we got to see the debut of Jade Cargill in the
yeah,
WWE, and she looked fantastic,
yeah,
better than
that
she
was a
ever.
great debut.
And probably what she was in the Rumble for maybe less than 30 minutes or something like that. And she
Yeah,
looked,
something like that.
even though she had a couple of spots that weren't great, like she looked better there than she ever did in AEW. So you can tell
Oh,
she's been training her.
oh,
She can tell
totally.
she's
Yeah.
been training her butt off in the PC. So hats
Yeah.
off to her. She was working it. I thought Chelsea Green also had a really good performance.
Mhm.
Just playing ragdoll, getting knocked around. Unfortunately, Maxine.
Yeah.
She is greener than goose poopy, and she showed it several times
Yeah.
in the
Oh man.
match.
Yeah.
Especially,
Yeah.
she tried to do this like that spinning 360 Hurricane Rana thing where you wrap your feet around somebody's neck and you kind of go all the way around and then fling them. She tried to do that to Bailey like twice and botched it the first time completely. Pulled it off barely, would be kind to say, but she got her stuff in. It was ugly.
Yeah. It was not. It was not good at all. It was.
She was
Yeah.
just like no. She put her butt back in NXT. She is not ready for the main roster.
No.
On the other hand, I'm not really keeping up with the current NXT product on a week to week basis, so I didn't really get to see Tiffany Stratton in the ring. But it's like,
Yeah.
girl, she's looking
Tiffany
like smoking.
Stratton is legit. Yeah.
Yeah,
That girl. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, she's just gorgeous, smoking hot. But then, like, she does like a really good swanton dive on a group of people, pulling off a couple of good spots. Like, all right, she's looking clean, looking good in the
Yeah.
ring.
Yeah.
So yeah, just we had kind of a lack of established stars in the women's rumble, but I don't think that necessarily took away. Some would disagree, but I don't think it necessarily took away from the exciting pace of the match.
No. I don't think it did either. I thought that. Yeah. Especially how they broke. It was far more entertaining to me, like pacing wise, than the men's was too.
Yeah,
Even with like them trying to push the story and
exactly.
push the stories that they were pushing in the men's rumble.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, because like again back to the women's, we had like a couple of good spots between Jade Cargill and Nia Jax, and then
Mhm.
we had a face off
Yeah.
between Jade and Bianca Belair, and the crowd seemed to be into that. So maybe we know what
Mhm.
Bianca's going to be doing for WrestleMania. So yeah, just a lot of good moments that the men's Rumble kind of lacked. Like we didn't have a
Yeah.
Kofi Kingston save spot this year.
Yeah, no, how do you not have a Kofi spot? That's what
I mean,
I know what was it last year that it was a botch? It was just a clear botch, or
yeah,
was it the year before? Yeah. I
no, it was
know that
last
you
year.
okay, yeah. And that kind of stuff's gonna happen. Like, don't take the gimmick away from him. That was something that we all looked forward to.
The only reason I can think of is like they're trying to push Kofi a little more seriously now, especially that if you guys watched Raw this week, the Intercontinental Championship match that he had with Gunther. Wow, that's one of the best Kofi matches I've seen in a long time. I mean, Gunther did a great job too and retained his belt, but Kofi
Yeah.
was on fire. It really reminded me back at that time where there was a brief push where Kofi started before the New Day formed, where like they were trying to push Kofi's like a little more serious, and like he had that match with Randy Orton where he like did like the boom drop like through a table and like was just like
Oh
very
yeah,
aggressive,
yeah, I remember
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, the crowd was like super duper into it. It felt like that's kind of what they're doing with him again, like they're moving the New Day away from the goofy stuff and trying to make Kofi a little more serious. So that was the only reason I think maybe they didn't want to do the spot because it kind of harkens back to Goofy kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I don't know.
I don't
The
know,
one
yeah.
one saving grace, though, of course, with all the Vince McMahon stuff that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, the possibility of Brock Lesnar being involved in all this chicanery, he got pulled from the Rumble and replaced with Braun Breaker, who I far enjoy seeing in the ring much more than
Oh,
than the ham sandwich that is Brock Lesnar.
yeah, absolutely. Because Braun Breaker will actually, he'll take moves, he'll sell moves when he has to. Like he
But
wants
he
to
looks
work with other. Yeah, he looks like $1 million in there. Yeah.
I mean, when he came charging in, like coming off the ropes into that spear, it's like, good God, is that dude's
Oh
rib
yeah.
cage okay? I mean, like he just, his explosiveness is just awesome.
Yeah.
And how is it that a guy who's the son of Rick Steiner looks basically like he should be Scott's son? I've always thought that. It's like, I mean, I know there's a genetics thing in there. There's the soup and stuff like that. It's like, dude, he looks like Scott's kid.
Yeah, he really does.
He looks like Scott's kid. He talks like Scott. He's got Scott's body. He's got Scott's face. It's like he's I don't know. There's some going on there, but but the men's rumble, of course, we Punk got injured. Cody ended up winning. It seemed like it was kind of just a rush to get there. So that was unfortunate because they did a really good job of building the rumble.
Yeah. But then we still got Elimination Chamber coming up, and then WrestleMania itself.
Mm-hmm. And everybody thinking, we're going to see Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. We're going to see him at Elimination Chamber. I was talking about that on your all stream.
Yeah.
We're going to see Rock in Australia because the Australian government probably paid a boatload of money to the WWE and said, we want The Rock. So,
and honestly, wherever he's going to do it, I'd still love to see The Rock wrestle again just to see if he still got it,
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that would be the last time we ever do see him wrestle. I don't think he's never really had an intention to wrestle before. I don't believe, this is just too good of a payday to pass up.
Unless the only thing is like, as Cena's talking retirement soon, if like Cena's last match is a rubber match between he and The Rock, because they're basically 1-1.
Yeah.
So at Mania, Rock won the first one, and Cena won the next year. So that could be something there. So having Cena Rock 3, we'll see who gets on top on that one.
Right, but sometimes you got to have stuff like Rocky and Apollo, where you never really know how that came out.
True that. That is true. So let's talk some Vince stuff.
I'm sorry, my contacts are all dry, and that's why I'm blinking so much. Like,
okay, if you want to want me to blink out for a second here, so you can take them out or something, or what do you want to do?
That'd be great. If you can give me like 2 minutes, or probably not even that long. Yeah, just let me pop them out real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, so we got some Vince McMahon stuff to talk about here. Of course, you guys know obviously all the charges that are brought against him, the court documents that have been released that are very explicit, and there are the text messages in there that supposedly or allegedly that Vince McMahon sent to Janelle Grant. Kind of just, it would make Penthouse Forum blush, a lot of the stuff that's in there. So there's, of course, like I said, there's a suit that's going on, but one of the charges that's in there basically sort of talks about sex trafficking, essentially. And because of that, the Wall Street Journal, as you can see here, is reporting that federal prosecutors are now looking into the sex trafficking allegations against Vince McMahon because, that is still a federal crime. So it's getting way, way more serious here. And there's a lot of, journalists, wrestling journalists, whatever the case may be, who are really getting on that this may be, I mean, of course, like Vince has already gone 100% from TKO, from WWE. He is out of the company 100%. But anytime you hear his name, you think Vince's name, you're obviously going to think WWE. While I think the company itself is doing everything they can to...
I'm back, sorry.
Oh, you're good, brother. No problem. Talking about the federal investigation now, possibly, of the sex trafficking allegations against Vince here. And then while I was saying here, well, it's like, Vince is completely gone from the company here, but this whole suit, these allegations, 100% definitely could be Vince's downfall, but could this also any bit of it blow back on the WWE?
I think so, yeah, because I think some people have even, I believe that I've read tweets now from some of the wrestling dirt sheets that are coming from other law firms and journalism outlets, saying that they are definitely talking to people who have more allegations, and some things will be made public soon.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a lot going on, and it's definitely going to be more involved of who knew what, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And one thing that like we kind of talked about, last night was Corny's reaction to everything,
Yeah.
Jim Cornette. And he was very surprised at that side of Vince, that was coming out with it. So
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering how many other people like necessarily know the different sides, because you always hear like Mick Foley talked about like a very kind and soft side to Vince.
Yeah.
Austin talked about him being like a buddy to Vince. It almost seems like Vince can become a chameleon and adapt to whatever he needs to do to manipulate someone. And
Yeah. It may have been Corny on his podcast, but basically somebody recently said that basically Vince McMahon has been emotionally manipulating wrestling fans for almost 40 years.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I think I
you
said
know,
that last night. Yeah,
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it's like he's you know there's times where like we know he does terrible things, or the steroid scandal, the Jimmy Snuka's dead girlfriend
right, yeah,
scandal, whatever, other cover-ups and affairs and other terrible things that Vince has done, or ruining the territories, or doing less than no, you know, less
I
than
think,
honorable business tactics, stuff like
yeah.
that. But it's like there's still times like he gets on air and we like, hey, we like old Vincey,
Right, yeah, right after all that stuff came out the first time, Vince just struts into the ring on Monday Night Raw and says, "We're gonna have a great show," and walks on back. That
Yeah,
was him just coming out and giving everybody the finger, who was accusing him of anything.
yeah, I agree. He did, and then he
And
showed up on SmackDown and said, "Welcome to SmackDown." And that was it. Yeah, you're exactly
yeah,
right. There's been some interesting stuff there because I've read one article where somebody was supposing, like, okay, well, where's like Shane in all of this? Because like Shane was ousted from the company a few years ago after his incident in the Royal Rumble. Was it 3 years ago? I guess.
yeah,
And
or 2
so
or 3 years ago, yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
know what you're talking about.
Uh, and so basically, it seemed like there was some kind of falling out between Shane and Vince. And so basically, Shane was literally fired from the company and hasn't really been much in contact and has been off doing his own thing ever since.
Mhm.
Uh, but now it's come to light that basically, like, could Shane have possibly been trying to separate himself from his father because of, he knew the stuff that was going on? Possibly even there's been reports of Shane, like, shutting down parties, quote unquote, even in front of like executives, high end people, stuff like that. Basically, Vince was trying to wine and dine, impress, whatever else, and using this woman
Yeah.
to do that. And Shane kind of shutting that stuff down and basically being a literal party pooper. So basically, like, okay, it could have been that Shane's trying to separate himself entirely from his dad, and there was that. Stephanie leaving the company to quote unquote be a mom. You
Yeah.
know, she left when Vince, she left at one point in the company for a strange reason, and then she came back when Vince was first ousted, and then Vince comes
Mhm.
back and she's gone again.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely don't want to, that family has always tried to put forth like a public image of a united front.
Yeah,
That's why, like, you never heard anything about Linda not being there, but apparently she'd been gone for, what, a decade now?
yeah. I
And
think
yeah,
like Linda lives in Florida or something like that. Like they
right,
don't even
yeah.
live in the same state.
Yeah, the
They're still
last
technically married, but they don't live together.
right. The last time, and I specifically remember because it was odd, because the last time I remember them all together, it was right when Trump had gotten elected and Linda was part of the cabinet, and there was that photo of all of them in the in the Oval Office.
Yeah,
And yeah, because it was like all the the whole McMahon family, and that was how many other reasons are you going to have to get the whole family together other than to pose in the White House,
yeah.
especially the Oval Office?
And then before the Trump administration, Linda was trying to run for office herself in Connecticut. And so there was a lot of family posing with that too, and Family United, stuff like that. So, but yeah, so, and of course, there was an after Rumble press conference. And of course, then, the wrestling journalists did their good due diligence of asking the right questions in the right way and not getting shut down. I think Cody Rhodes should be the company spokesperson, because the answer he gave was very, I don't condone any of this. It's terrible what happened. I don't know anything about it. I know basically as much as you guys do. I heard about it when you all did. But let's keep moving forward. They're going to have their day in court, and we're going to let them handle it. So it's just a very great political answer without basically not giving a good answer. Whereas Triple H's answer was basically kind of like, yeah, that's all bad stuff, but let's talk about that great house we had, and let's talk about the Rumble.
we made a lot of money, and we got our Netflix deal, and all this, and
no.
It's all, and that's the other thing too. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I keep trying to digress into other points.
No. But then, yesterday, there was an NXT media call because they've got a pay-per-view coming up this Sunday, Vengeance Day, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But so Shawn Michaels, being the kind of the head of NXT, did a press conference, and so he addressed the whole thing, and he addressed it very similar to Cody, much more political, much better answer. But then, of course, he had an interesting thing to put in there because, of course, there's been many times over the years when he was an active wrestler in his glory days, basically when he was he self-admitted he was basically an a-hole. He was accused a lot of times of taking advantage of women or allegations, stuff like that, but basically nothing formal was ever brought out. There was always wrestler stories that were passed around. He's like, look, in my heyday, I did not have any trouble, getting a woman to come to my hotel room because of who I am and my, good looks. He's like, I was still a jerk and thing like that. I was like, but nothing non-consensual ever happened. So it's like people have spread rumors about that in the past. And those rumors have been recounted because, I called them to task on it, and they came out and
the source was not reliable. I remember hearing about that when it came out, and then it was kind of like the person who's saying it isn't known for saying legit stuff.
It's like one of those people was Brutus Beefcake, aka Ed Leslie. It's like, okay, Ed,
right?
Tell us another one. I think Marty Jannetty even said stuff, and of course, Marty Jannetty is about as reliable source as Satan himself. So,
right? Oh
yeah. But another interesting note that came up here recently, of course, in the whole Vince story here. Basically, John Laurinaitis has been named in a lot of the stuff as well, being involved in some of the improprieties, things like that. But now his representation is coming out and saying that John himself is a victim.
Yeah, and
the truth will come to light, apparently.
Right, and I am.
This is our believing you face, John. Collectively, this is I totally believe everything you're saying. What a fine, upstanding citizen you've always been in the wrestling business. Never screwed anybody over, ever, or took advantage of people or anything like that.
Yeah, I listened to Corny's reaction to that news before, I came on to this show, and he brought up a really good point that, if he was indeed a victim of this, and, if you read the 67-page document, there was a period of time where she was scheduled to go and have scheduled like Thursday or Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, were the nights that John Laurinaitis was with her. So what did they do? Did they sit in Laurinaitis' hotel room and go, okay, so we're just going to tell Vince we did it, and then because we're both victims, and no, we didn't do. Yeah, that didn't happen.
They were just jumping up and down the bed and making noises, just simulating.
Right? Yeah. Just in case Vince called or had anybody listening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then another interesting little tidbit. I pulled this up here from Vice News this evening. Here, the NDAs that apparently that Janelle Grant and a lot of other people have signed that are all involved in this whole sort of situation were authored 100% by Vince, and basically without the WB's knowledge. Whether or not there's any legal counsel were involved in this, we don't 100% know, but basically there may be a very good reason why this NDA that Miss Grant had to sign initially, that she's now basically, since she didn't get paid her $3 million, she only got paid $1 million.
Right.
There's
Well,
very good
also
reason why
too,
that
like,
maybe.
yeah, an NDA though can't shield you from a crime. Like, there's the whole trafficking aspect of it too, and that's that the NDA can't cover that. But then, yeah, it makes me wonder, finding out Vince having penned these NDAs himself. I believe one clause in Janelle Grant's was that if she needed a job reference in the future, she had to go through John Laurinaitis and not Vince. And
No.
yeah, and so it's like, yeah, that is just straight up like, yeah, you can tell that Vince wrote that. That makes so much more sense now.
Yeah. Anywho, so enough of all this Vince Michigas, because it's a mess. That trial is
Yeah.
going to be fascinating.
Oh, stuff is
Uh,
going to keep coming out. We're going to have a very long road of this. If you don't
mhm.
like trial coverage, oh man, you're going to have a real bad time probably over the next few years.
It's going to make Amber Heard and Johnny Depp look like Sunday in the Park, man. I mean, it's going to be.
Okay, I'm going to be 100% though. I want cameras in there because I would court TV this.
Oh yeah.
100%. I would this would be my OJ trial. Like, I would stream it at work and, because
Well,
I want
see,
to hear
the
some
great.
of the testimony.
Granted, yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess Court TV still somewhat exists. I don't know if they would cover this, but there are so many YouTube streamers now that are like news people. They want to you know you know be authentic about this.
Right.
That their coverage of the Heard Depp trial was fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. They're
Yeah.
going to be all over this thing here, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I guess basically we now know that Bailey is the winner of the women's rumble. Cody
Mhm.
is the winner of the men's rumble. Cody has already said, "I'm going after Roman," but then Seth Rollins on Monday night comes in and says, "Hey, what about me?" Because Roman, sure, that's the big belt over there, but like that's the Hogan belt. That's the celebrity belt there. That's the basically he's trying to devalue the championship, whereas Seth
Right.
Rollins world championship, he's like, that's the workhorse belt. That's the dusty belt. Why don't you want to get this one here? So Cody's got something to think about.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't choose Seth because I don't want to see him face Seth. I want to see him face Roman.
Right. I think that would
And
be the better match, but,
and
you know.
finish the damn story. um, the whole Punk thing is interesting because, of course, Punk is injured, much like Seth, and Seth's trying to power through and make it to Mania, or whatever else, without doing his surgery. Punk looked like he was injured, but then the whole angle with McIntyre coming out, basically having a tete-a-tete with him, and then basically beating him up and stomping on his arm. So
Yeah.
are they going to try to do something with McIntyre and Punk and basically try to keep Punk in things?
Yeah, I don't
So
I'm not sure. And then, yeah, I'm not even have you been even following this whole idea that Seth Rollins may not even actually be injured? That they might be doing it a kayfabe injury?
interesting. No, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, just because it doesn't make sense. Like, if you're trying to push that his injury is so severe that he may miss WrestleMania, why are you still keeping him on like this long? It's like, unless you're going to have him in the match, it doesn't make sense. But
That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
point.
It's a weird online theory, because I read Reddit a lot at work because, what else am I going to do?
Sure.
Not actual work,
The
but
thing though is like if he had an MCL tear, once it's torn, it's probably gonna not feel great, but he can probably still work. And if he was
yeah,
working with somebody good, then they can cover up for his injury. He may not be able, and if he only literally has to pull it out for one WrestleMania match and doesn't wrestle until WrestleMania, then I mean, Seth
Yeah,
is
that's
CrossFit.
fair. Yeah,
Seth's CrossFit. He's CrossFit Jesus, man. I mean, the guy's in tremendous shape. So,
right.
so there's a very good chance of that. We were talking earlier before the show with the Bailey situation. She's apparently supposed to announce tonight on SmackDown who her opponent's going to be, because basically her choices are basically Io or Rhea.
Right.
And for me, I would much rather see, they've been kind of telegraphing it, that she's going to break away from Damage Control, or they're trying to break her away from Damage Control. Like they're going to, the rest of the group's going to turn on Bailey, and Bailey goes face. I'd like to see that a lot better than I would, because there was an odd moment when Asuka came into the Rumble and Bailey looked kind of disappointed that like one of her teammates was in the Rumble with her. And they didn't really talk. They kind of addressed it a little bit, but they didn't like talk about that. They haven't addressed it further. So I'm interested if they're going to do that tonight on SmackDown, which is on currently as we speak. It just turned on.
Oh
yeah. So I'm interested to see what that. But I think this is basically like, Bailey's been a great wrestler, has really worked a lot to kind of build up her star power, but I think she hasn't got quite the due that, like, Becky or Charlotte or, Bianca Belair get, or Rhea, as like a legitimate star within the women's division. But I think this program going into WrestleMania, if she does indeed do a face turn, I think this is
her time.
Yeah, this is her time.
Yeah, because it seems like every time before, like when she got to right at that point, something else would happen. Like she got injured a couple of times, and it was just. I mean, hopefully everything keeps going and she keeps maintaining that momentum. And
yeah. Or like the first time she was going to do Damage Control, and then basically they fired everybody that she wanted to work with. That was she was going to bring up from NXT. It's like she and Triple H are working on the idea, like, okay, I'm going to bring up, Dakota. We're going to bring up, Io Shirai. We're going to yada yada, and then like, fired. So basically, like that's kind of why Bailey was like, 21, 22, kind of like dangling out the wind. Really didn't have anything going on, like the ding dong hello stuff, and
right.
So, but yeah, she was kind of floundering for a little bit, and then basically when they finally brought in, everybody, and she formed Damage Control, then like, okay, now we're full on, really heel Bailey here. But yeah. Right. And one thing we talked about at the top of the show, or before the show started here, is you remember in the early days of NXT when Bailey was still in there, she had her super fan Izzy, which was like a little, I don't know, she was like 10, 12 years old, something like that. Always in the front row, right there in the corner. With her parents, and big fan of Bailey and all that kind of stuff like that. That girl is wrestling now. Her name's Izzy, and but that young lady is wrestling now.
And I'm shaking my head just because it makes me feel old saying that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like she had like her first match. I think it was like right before Christmas this past year. But yeah, I mean she followed her dream just like her hero, and. It's a
more power
story.
to her. More power to her, though. Curse her for making me feel like an old man.
Yeah, she made us all feel old there. Because you made a good point that like wrestling time sometimes feels like it was 2 years ago when it was actually like 10. So
yeah, it just it amazes me sometimes just to think that it's I think that AEW has only been around for 2 years now. They're just now and no, they're going on like what 5, and yeah. It's hard to think of just time relative to anything.
And real briefly here before we end the show here, we got to touch on some AEW stuff here. Top stars are injured or out with medical issues because Kenny's out, Adam's still hurt, MJF's hurt. So a lot of your big guys are gone. We don't have any other really established. We're starting to establish some stars, but they're not quite there just yet. We don't have any face stars right now, which is really weird.
No, we don't. Unless, no, not even really Sting and Darby. But
yeah, I mean, Sting's a legend and whatnot, but Darby's popular, but it's like he's not like, he's not quite to that huge point. He was getting there when they were doing like the 4-way thing for the belt. It was like him and they literally did the 4 pillars match. He was starting to get there, and then like now we're all kind of consumed with Sting's last match, so he's kind of involved with that. Orange Cassidy is a top mid card, but I wouldn't put him, in household name kind of stardom like that. So,
Right.
it's like we're really kind of, you got like a lot of established people in the company, but no one that's like, putting butts in seats. And sometimes you watch Dynamite and Collision or whatever. So it's like, are there people in the arena? It's like it's
Yeah,
hidden.
it's hard to, and I've been an AEW apologist for so long, but there's just only
Me
so
too.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only so many excuses you can make,
Yeah.
until like you can just tell it's not. It doesn't. There's not the same energy behind it right now. The momentum
Hmm.
isn't there. Like there's just kind of some stuff is working, some stuff isn't. Like how many? Okay, okay. I love the idea of the Acclaimed and the Gun Club, the Acclaimed and the Ass Boys and Bullet Club coming together and making
Hmm.
their new faction. But how many times can you have them come out and throw Card Blade out and pull out Juice Blade and right, like,
Yeah.
how many times can you go back to that well without them actually doing something?
Well, and the mere
No.
fact too that's like, okay, so they're warring against a faction that isn't even fully, they're not fully developed, and they're certainly not at full
Yeah,
strength because their leader is still injured.
right.
So it's like, okay, so you're warring against the what do they call themselves now, the Undisputed Kingdom or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's like, Adam's still injured. Okay, you got Bennett and Taven are Ring of Honor tag team champions, but they're not AEW champions.
right.
Roddy's working on a belt. Okay. Wardlow's working on nothing right now. So it's like they're just,
Well, Wardlow's
there's
even injured himself now.
when that happened because he just wrestled last week.
No, apparently he did something to his ankle, I believe.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, that must
yeah.
have happened when he
Yeah,
was.
it wasn't,
Yeah,
apparently it's not like one of those super serious injuries, but he's gonna be out for maybe 6 weeks or something if I'm remembering correctly, but yeah.
jeez, yeah. So like,
Uh,
yeah, the whole company's snake bit right
yeah,
obviously, the ratings they're kind of they found their core audience. They're kind of holding steady, but also at the same time, AEW will take their ratings and like basically they're piggybacking off of Big Bang Theory when they're on
yeah,
Dynamite or whatever movie is playing on TB or TNT right before Collision, and then they also do an overrun of a couple of minutes. So basically, the ratings for that are basically the people tuning in for the next show. So
yeah,
they cheat their ratings all the time. It's obvious that the houses are not as full, and they're booking way too large buildings. They need to start booking like impact size buildings and studios and stuff like that. To fill
yeah,
because that's the thing. It's like the Cornette podcasts have made this point before. It's like okay, you don't have a big arena full of people every single time, but it's like if you get like a mid-sized or a small arena or a large TV studio and you pack that full of people, it's going to sound and look great. Because
yeah.
even like we went to an Impact show together, and we were
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah, that was fantastic.
yeah, it's like okay, like this is not a huge place, but that place was full of people. There was a
Right.
lot of energy through that whole show because it was like after a pay per view, and then you watch it on TV. That place looks huge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they had it set up. You do with the black walls and the curtains.
Yeah,
You accentuate the positive and try and hide the negative.
exactly.
You know.
Oh, Bill Doris coming in here with a comment. Mr. Co-host of the Smokes and Road Beers podcast with Seth
Hey,
there.
Bill.
Say that Wardlow twisted his knee on Dynamite. Okay, so there you go. So
Okay.
it's like
So
yeah, but he
ankle,
just
knee, close enough. Yeah, but yeah, he did. He hurt. Yeah, his knee. Okay, sorry.
yeah, okay, but I was like, yeah, he just wrestled Wednesday, so there you
Yeah.
go. That's why. Thank you, Bill. But yeah, so it's yeah, there has to be a breaking point somewhere where somebody's got to take Tony Khan aside and say, like, look, man, you know, ratings are down, houses are down. There's nothing really going on with the booking here. We're getting, a lot of fan negative feedback here. Let somebody else, be in charge of this stuff, or let's try something
Yeah.
different.
And
And,
it's interesting to me because like with WWE, you've got that WWE style, right? And there's
mhm,
that storytelling. Your guys in there can have their own individualized wrestling styles too, but there's still that WWE style of wrestling. And
mhm,
AEW focuses on more of like let your independent, like your personal style shine through. but the creative is not there to there is no creative to guide you. You know, you're making your stuff up as you go along, kind of deal.
Like the storylines we saw left when Cody Rhodes left.
Yeah,
because Cody had some storylines going on, and sometimes even some of the stories were like long form stuff, which was really cool. That's
right.
very old school, but those days are gone now because Cody's over in the big company being their champion, or about ready to be a champion.
Yeah.
You better be.
And maybe that is something that I can't imagine trying to put something like that together, tell a long form story, and something like somebody that you'd be dependent on for 6 months, they suddenly get injured and they're out for 4 months or for the next year. I can't imagine how frustrating that would be, because that happens all the time in wrestling, all the time.
Absolutely does.
But
but yeah, so of course, Elimination Chamber's coming up next for WWE. For AEW, we've got Revolution coming up at the beginning of March. So that's basically almost literally a month away. And that will feature Sting's final match, which saddens me that it's going to be against the Young Bucks, but what have you?
Sting picked it, so I can't. He picked it. I'm not going to be too upset.
Yeah, I mean, he got to be involved with Muta's retirement. He got to be involved with Rick's retirement a little bit, and Rick will probably be ringside for the match. We'll give some very awkward 82-year-old man chops while he's sipping on his mushroom drink.
Yeah.
But it's wow, not 100% what we thought were. But I'm intrigued where WWE is going to go with the Elimination Chamber, with who's basically going to be facing our champions, sort of thing like that. Where's The Rock going to fit into all this? If he's going to fit into it at all. Will Gunther, maybe will he face Seth Rollins for the belt? And, basically he become world champion and then dump the Intercontinental Championship without ever having to lose it.
Yeah.
So there's so many what ifs. Who's going to make it? Who will make it in time? All sorts of things like that. So,
right.
We're definitely going to be here to cover this, I'm sure. But before we go here, we got to give you one last plug here for the Smokes Roadbeers podcast, especially with your episode coming up this Thursday.
Yes, we are excited about this. We've been putting it together for a couple of weeks now. But we are going to interview a lady who's agreed to sit down with us and tell her story about her time with the Rivendell cult, which was a cult in there was a part of the country where they parceled out the land, or where a tech guy who was kind of scared of Y2K bought a bunch of land in 1998 and parceled it out to families, for their own little plots, and made a community and based it on Rivendell from Lord of the Rings. And it was kind of it turned into like a Lord of the Rings Christian fundamentalist, like quiverful, like weird homeschooly cult kind of deal, but we're going to talk to a lady who was a part of that, and she's going to share her story with us, and we are excited to have her. And so please, come check us out over on Rumble. Smokes and Roadbeers.
Yeah, and also on Facebook, you guys are on there. So 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursday nights. Definitely tune in for that this week, because you guys are doing the interview itself is taped, but then you guys will do live reactions before and after.
Right? Yeah, we're gonna do. Yeah, we got the interview. We're recording the interview portion tomorrow. And so, but we're going to hold on to that. And we're going to air that in its entirety on the show live, and we're going to introduce it beforehand and air the interview, and then come back after and talk about it more then. So
yes, so definitely check out Smokes and Roadbeers podcast. Of course, you guys are all over pop culture, where you talk about fun topics, but you also sometimes handle serious topics, still kind of within the pop culture realm,
right? Definitely more of an adult podcast than here, so listener discretion is advised.
Yes,
obviously. But we try and cover a lot of things with pop culture. We try and have like more of a serious discussion about things involved with things with tech and media and things of that nature.
Things of that sort, a couple more comments popped up here before we go here. Cade Hawkins, good to see you, sir. Host of Cartoon Commotion, the best cartoon podcast on the internet right now, because it is a cartoon podcast about tunes, for tunes, hosted by a tune.
That is awesome.
Yes, it certainly is. He is complimenting your physical media collection there, sir.
Thank
So,
you
because
very much. Thank you very much. I've taken a long time and a lot of money cultivating it, and it's my happy place. This room is so
yeah,
yeah. But I
that,
appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, this is the official warrior poet man cave here. So,
Yes, yeah. I got a little bit of everything, going around.
yeah, because we're seeing mostly the DVDs. You got some trades and manga stuff on top there, but we're not even seeing the
Right.
comic collection here. So,
Yeah, the comic
then again,
collection, yeah, it pans around the room. Yeah, I did. This is the wall that you can't see is the only one that actually doesn't have a shelf with stuff on it.
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And see, where you got your show cards up there. Because, I mean, all my comics are in boxes here. So I got to show you my boxes here that are all scratched up by the cats, stuff like that, which is not very, photogenic here. But yeah, so I
Yeah.
got little toys there. Kevin Riedel popped in here, says that he just got home, so he'll watch this later and tell us all why my takes are wrong. Ha, ha, ha.
Hey,
You stinker.
a proper internet commenter, yes.
Yeah, Kevin always gives me the business there. So, but yeah, Kevin's a big wrestling fan himself here. So, yeah, I'm sure he's got a lot of takes as well for the multitude of wrestling topics we discuss here this evening here.
Yeah.
And also, I got to give a little prop to my shirt here as well here.
Yeah, that is a sweet shirt. I was gonna say,
And I love this. It's a WrestleMania shirt that doesn't have Hogan.
Yeah, that
How
is
rare is
true.
that? I got the
Yeah.
Hart Foundation. I got Roddy. I got Macho. I got Jake. I even got the Warrior on here, which
I
I
didn't
love the
even I
Warrior.
didn't even think about that, but you're right. Yeah, it doesn't have Hogan on it. That is cool.
No Hogan. So I think this came from the J.C. Penney collection, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, but it was just
Yeah.
like when my wife got this for me, it's like, oh yeah, I know you love wrestling. There's old school wrestlers on there. I'm like, whoa, this is a unique. Because you
Yeah.
figured like he would be like him and Andre or something like that. But like no.
Right, yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah, so I always try to do trivia with people. It's like, okay, which WrestleMania did all of these gentlemen appear at together at the same WrestleMania?
Oh, I don't know that one. Hang on. I'm totally gonna guess here, but I'm gonna say WrestleMania 7.
You were close. WrestleMania 6.
6. Okay. See, my next inclination was actually gonna go to WrestleMania 8, but yeah, that would have been farther away.
Yep, because
WrestleMania 6, dang, yeah.
Roddy had the infamous match against Bad News Brown where he painted half of his body black.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. Hart Foundation had a match, I think, against Demolition for the belts. And then Macho. Who do you have a match with? But Macho had a match, and then Jake had a match against Andre.
Yeah.
But of course, and that was when Warrior won the belt against Hogan. But
Yeah.
it's a little fun WrestleMania trivia there. All righty, sir. We're gonna wrap things up here because it's time for dinner, and we gotta watch SmackDown and
Yeah,
pass out and all that
absolutely.
good stuff.
Right. Yeah, we're getting close to old man bedtime,
Yes, we
So,
certainly are. We've worked full days today, and then of course, I'm all day in the comic shop tomorrow. Which darn, I'm in the comic shop all day tomorrow.
yeah.
Yeah, so come down.
The problems of your life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, come down and visit me, E-Town and Cloudburn Comics, and we'll hang out and talk comics, and you can buy things, and we'll talk each other's ear off. It's kind of like it's like a nerd version of a barber shop. Everybody comes in, hangs out, and we talk nerd things and get discussions, and sometimes heated arguments about things, or
Yeah.
people, or just for funsies, people ask me like what I think of Brock Lesnar, and they watch my face get red, and steam starts coming out. And I hated Brock Lesnar before all the Janelle
Yeah.
Brand stuff.
You hated Brock Lesnar before it was cool to hate Brock Lesnar. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah. And an interesting thing too, I was listening to Kenny Boland's podcast, the Bolin Alley, and of course he personally knows Brock Lesnar because he worked with him in OVW and spent a few years in there. He's like, yeah, like the stuff that was supposedly said by Brock or done by Brock or whatever else, and they haven't quite named him, but it's like everybody's like, you don't have to say it, we know who you're talking about. He's like, I've literally heard Brock say some of those things backstage, so it's like I don't have a lot of doubt that it's definitely him. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Oh, so like I said, the just juicy, rich, dripping with
Yeah, it's gonna
gravy.
be an interesting. Yeah, like I
This,
said, it's gonna be an interesting few years with this stuff coming out.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Strap in, folks. It's gonna be a long time here.
yeah.
Oh, and Kate Hawkins popping in one more time here, saying thanks for the kind plug. You are very welcome, sir. You're well deserved. You're a great show. You got to check out it, folks. Cartoon Commotion. All right. Speaking of commotion, it's time to get out of here, sir. So thank you once again for being a part of the old Fanatic Forum here.
You are very welcome. Thank you again for having me. Always a pleasure. Anytime you want me, just let me know.
You got it, brother. And of course, check out Smokes and Roadbeers podcast, Facebook, Rumble, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. Of course, you can go on their Facebook and view older episodes on there if you want to check them out. But yeah, if you want to still talk nerd, but put your adult pajamas on here. Put the smoking jacket on here, and let's get some real talk going here.
Yeah. And tell us we're wrong and stupid if you want to too. That's fine.
Yeah. Especially Bill. If you want to tell Bill, he's
yeah. Tell Bill your detailed opinions on CM Punk, and he will have a very academic discourse with you on the subject.
No, he won't. He is all but hurt and listening to too many young bucks talk about. No, that's why I make fun of Bill. It's like, show us on the dollar where CM Punk touched you, because you got beef with this man that you have no reason to have beef with. So he's just a grumpy curmudgeon that had to work with stupid children, and he basically got a little bit rough with them. But apparently he's on the apology tour and having a great time in WWE and hanging with the kids in NXT, and they love him over there. So what do you know? Huh? Anywho, thank you guys once again for tuning into the Fanatic Forum here. Always share the podcast here with all your geek friends and whatnot, or converts. We love to have you guys on here. Everybody's welcome. So thank you all very much. You all have yourselves a good evening. Take care.